Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
And we're doing this today, this bonus episode, this Feedback Friday, which we're going to debut today. We're doing it without a pilot, Judd. Declan is on a short vacation.
I trust you.
See some family. And he's like, do you guys want me to get a fill-in producer? And we're like,
No, you were like,
no.
I would have gotten one. You said, no, I can do it myself. And so you are in charge of the jet. And let's just say, I think you're fine as long as the plane is off the ground. And so I think as far as flying it, you're fine. The question is,
that's the thing. Yeah.
The question now is, can you land this puppy?
I'm like the inflatable co-pilot in the movie Airplane. Like, it's, getting the plane off the ground with today's modern technology is not that hard. Where Declan comes in and where you and I fall far, far short, even though I do have a production background, is everything that happens once the plane is in the air and as it lands and then goes back to the gate and then gets ready to fuel up for tomorrow. Like, those are all the things that I'm worried about later today.
Can you land the plane? And I got serious doubts, but you know what?
I don't know.
We got to see if we can land now. We've taken off.
So you can find, by the way, Action Movie Rewind, and you can find Declan and I talking for about 20 minutes with WWE superstar Natalya on Mackie and Judd. But we thought it'd be fun. We've been doing a couple different variations of that. We've done Ask Mackie and Judd in the past. We love to incorporate feedback from you guys, whether you hate us or love us. We're always on Twitter. It's been fun growing our SKOR North YouTube channel and our Purple Daily YouTube channel, so we always check out the comments there. So we're going to do this Feedback Friday, where we're just going to take in some of the comments and questions that you guys have sent to us on Twitter or just perusing through the SKOR North YouTube channel comments. And we'll start with this one right here from Lightning11 on Twitter. And he's responding to something Twins related that one of us posted. He tagged both of us. He goes, how to fix the Twins. This is his 6-step process for how to fix the Twins, who are now, 12 games below 500 after losing again last night?
Last night's disaster.
Yeah. Step 1, force Pohlad to sell to ownership that cares. Step 2, fire Falvey and Levine. Step 3, fire Baldelli and all of the coaches. Step 4, fire all player development coaches. Step 5, fire all the scouts. And Step 6, trade all the players. How do you feel about Lightning 11's plan to fix the Twins?
Wait, hold on. I thought you were going to give me a 6-part plan that would involve retooling the bullpen and maybe a trade or two. So basically, it's 2 parts. It's 3 parts. It's force the Pohlads to sell. It's fire everybody from Falvey and Levine and Rocco on down, and then it's trade all the players. I think you call that an expansion team.
I mean, after what Celestino did in center field last night, and I get that they're in a jam. They've got like 10 guys on the injured list that matter, and so they call Celestino up. He's one of their top 10 or 15 prospects, but he's never played above Double-A, and he hasn't even played that much at Double-A, I don't think.
Yeah.
And so he's up in the major leagues yesterday, and him and Larnach. I mean, Larnach has barely played above Double-A. So Larnach's been off to a decent start, but those guys converge in left center field in a close game, stare at each other, stare back at the ball. Celestino jumps in, ball bounces off his glove. It's like, all right, that's a problem. And then he goes and picks the ball up and just frustratingly, lazily throws the ball back, like just randomly throws the ball back towards second base, and then the circus commences. So after that play, I look at this 6-step plan, and I'm like, it seems a little aggressive, but honestly, anything's in play after that play last night.
Yeah, I mean, that play was disgusting. I guess I'm struggling here a little bit because, certainly that 6-step plan or 3-step plan is probably overly harsh. We could all agree on that. But here's where I'm struggling. And I don't know how to rectify this now. I'm sort of lost. Am I crazy? Like, are we nuts, or is there seemingly a semi-large faction of people who are like trying to, I don't know, dismiss this is the right word, but it's like they're, is Twins truthers the right word? It's like they're brainwashed. It's like they're in the cult of Twins, and it's like, well, Celestino, I mean, he shouldn't be here, and he dropped a ball. He helped drop a ball that if you were coaching a little league team, you'd get mad about.
Yeah, does he get a pass because it's his his first two
I
games
mean,
in the majors? I mean,
the lead to the Star Tribune story is the game story today is the Twins are on their 6th center fielder of the season. I don't care if he's your 25th. Like he literally, and you could see it coming too. Larnach is in position to catch that ball, and you can see on your TV screen Celestino getting closer and closer. And it's like, what are you doing, dude? Oh my God. Oh my God. And sure enough, I mean, that's a Bad News Bears play. That's literally, Phil, a play that the Bad News Bears, I think, had scripted into their movie to show their incompetence before they obviously came back and turned things around and beat the Yankees to win their championship. That's that type of play. So I guess on a daily basis, I'm growing more confused about a lot of things here. This is a disaster. Like, I know guys are hurt. That's fine. And look, I'm not dismissing that, but this is a disaster. And every time the apologists are like, well, Celestino, he's the 6th guy to play center field this year. I came back with this on Twitter last night. Okay, let's just go down that path. Like, let's go down your path. Celestino didn't belong here, and it's not anybody's fault. Robles walked Carlos Santana to start the 8th. He's supposed to be, and last time I checked, he's not subbing in for a guy who got hurt. He was signed by you because you said we can turn him around, right? He walks Santana, Dyson runs, steals second, and that whole thing was set off because of that walk. So, like, the apologists, what are you aiming for here? Just call it like it is. This is a bleeping disaster. Rocco Baldelli's comments after the game on the drop ball are as close as he's going to come to flaming players. I mean, Rocco Baldelli came out as harshly as Rocco can and basically said there's nothing to be learned there. It's not like a play. That's not like a gaffe where it's like, okay, here's the nuanced thing you didn't do right. Rocco essentially for him ripped the players. The gloves are off here, folks. The apologists just accept that. Like there's no happy face to put on this crap. It's crap.
Like I told you on, I think it was yesterday's show, every time something like that happens, it's annoying, but it's 100 times more annoying because they're 0-18 in their last 18 playoff games too. Like, let's not forget that. Let's not let that slide. Let's not let the organization just be able to shrug their shoulders and, well, I mean, it's just, bad luck or whatever. It's like, you guys, it's the worst playoff futility streak in North American sports history. And then you followed it up in a year in which you're supposed to win like 90-plus games. Everything about this team screams win now, playoff run, veterans all over the field, right? It's one of the oldest rosters in baseball, so it's just a veteran-laden team, and they're laying this egg against teams like Kansas City and Baltimore. So I think the next question, we'll get to more feedback here since we're on this tangent, though. How do you fix this mess? Like, is this something – I mean, the ship has sailed for 2021. I know There's still people that are clinging to, but we're not this bad. I mean, at some point, you got to make a decision in the next 3 or 4 weeks if you're going to engage seriously in trade discussions, and you're not going to be able to turn your season around. I mean, listen, if they roll off 15 straight wins and get back over 500, all right, let's talk, like the 91 team. But this team doesn't seem to have that type of heartbeat. They don't have a Kirby Puckett. They don't have a Scott Erickson in his prime or a Jack Morris, right? They don't have those guys. They don't have a closer like Rick Aguilera. So I don't want to hear, well, in 91, well, that's a different heartbeat of a team. Is this team, like, are you getting 2011 vibes and that, whoa, the cliff came and it is like a 5-year rebuild? Or I'm sort of on path number 2, which is there's still some nice pieces. Kirilloff, Larnach, the pitching is very much in question, but you have so many things you could trade. Nelson Cruz, I would even say a Buxton or a Barrios with a year and a half left. I almost feel like it's a retooling for 2022-23. Clear out some salary. Where are you at with how to fix this mess?
So the 2011 comp does feel familiar in just the falling apart aspect. So like there are things that are reminiscent to me of that. But yes, I don't feel the same way about the future of this club, because the problem in 11 was you sort of looked at the system, and when guys started to come up, it's like, that's it. Like, that's all. Larnach, Kirilloff, you've definitely got some guys that are going to be productive and be good players. So I don't feel that this is okay, now it's going to be 6 years again. Like, this is lost. I don't feel that. But here's the one thing. The one word that I would use, and this goes back to the playoff defeats to the Yankees and Astros, and now it applies, and that was more of a Rocco thing. And now this applies to the entire executive staff, Falvey, Levine especially. The word I would use is learn. You need to learn. I don't know why, because these guys aren't dumb. Like, not for 1 second am I going to say, well, they were dumber than I thought they were. I still think that they're smart people. But with smart people, there seem to sometimes be these, the impediment seems to be this feeling that they were doing things right, or they've got a certain way of doing things. And this is sort of a sports thing too. And there doesn't seem to be the ability to learn. And with Baldelli in the playoffs, Phil, it was very clearly starting pitching. I mean, when Maeda and Barrios had those great starts, and you're like, okay, it's time for you to come out.
Cody Stashak is our guy here.
Yeah, we were all saying
this isn't June, dude.
Right. It's like Kirilloff learned, right, that playoff hockey is a very different thing. And hopefully he grows from that. Well, I would have hoped that going into the 2020 wild card round against the Astros, that Rocco would have said exactly what you just said, which is, oh, okay, you know what? In June, Barrios is out, but not now. And now I think there's an opportunity, and it, to me, largely starts with the bullpen, because the bullpen's not a fluke. Nothing that's happened there is a fluke. It's misjudgments. It's the thought process that we can rebuild this thing continually because our staff is so good that we'll find flaws. And look, I am all for going to the garage sale of baseball at times and trying to get pieces. But when that becomes your fallback of it, we'll do that again. That, to me, that's an arrogance that's going to bite you in the ass, and firmly has. So I don't think the Twins are a lost cause in the coming years. I do think they're a lost cause if they don't very much sit down and parcel out the team dynamic of, this is a lot of bad luck. Okay, take that one and throw it away. You're going to have bad luck in sports. It just happens. So, like, don't go to school on bad luck. There's not a thing that can be learned from years like that. But go to school on what you did wrong, and change your philosophies.
Would you do this trade that Mark DeRosa from MLB Network threw out, I think, this morning on their morning show? So he says Josh Donaldson and $15 million cash to help eat some of that contract to the Brewers. Donaldson, by the way, people, I think 3 days ago, people were like, why are you ripping Sano but not Donaldson? Well, for one, Donaldson was a former league MVP and has maxed out his prime years. He's old, he's injured, he's rippable, but he's also a great counter adjuster. He's just one of the great studious hitters. And I always kind of felt like, well, he's going through a little bit of a slump, but he'll probably adjust like he always has for 10 years. And he has. Like, look at him last night.
Yeah.
Sano never adjusts. So Donaldson and $15 million in cash to the Brewers, and then the Brewers would send back Jackie Bradley Jr.
Yep.
So he's 30. He's fine. He's having a bad season. He's on a 2-year, $24 million contract, so you'd have to eat some of that money too. And then the Brewers would send their sixth, according to MLB Pipeline, their sixth best prospect, left-handed pitcher, Antoine Kelly. Some background: he's 21 now, hasn't pitched in a game in the minors since 2019 because he's recovering from thoracic outlet surgery. That's like the sort of the front of the shoulder kind of a deal.
So rib, yeah. Phil Hughes had that same thing.
Yeah, he was I think he was a former second-round draft pick, I want to say. So there's a ton of upside and potential if he's healthy. But would you consider trading if you could? You're not going to get a perfect haul for Josh Donaldson, right, but would you consider doing something like this?
Yes, this is the exact type of trade. I would like to get out from the contract. I don't think that you are going to be in. It's not think. You are not going to be in the window that you thought you were when you signed him to that contract. And that contract was at that time, a good gamble. It has not worked. He is, because of Donaldson's problems now with calves and hamstrings and age, I think he is very much a year-to-year type of player. So if he's going to be healthy, it can go to a team like the Brewers and help them win. That's great. I don't think it does a lot of good to hold your breath and say, yeah, well, perhaps in the last year of that contract in 2023, JD is going to help us. So I don't know that this is the deal that I would do exactly. The Bradley thing defensively, I like, because it does go back to what we talked about during the winter, which is as long as Byron Buxton is on your team, and he is when he's playing, he's fantastic. You need a starting caliber center fielder behind him who I think you can stash in like left field, because you need this. This is the problem, right? You're Kyle Garlick playing center field for the first time since college. Ref Snyder, I don't think had played a game in center until he was put there by the Twins. He had been a corner guy. So Bradley does go very much to what I think, as long as Buxton's going to be your main guy in center, you need a guy that can play there and has played there. This is the type of trade that I would do, because I would be very interested in getting out from under this contract. Yeah. I don't think Donaldson's shelf life now is big enough to help you with where things are going to be. And I just don't see, Phil, a path where it makes sense to say, well, he'll help us next year. You don't know that. Like, he's got enough injury problems and age. And I saw a tweet back, because I retweeted that trade idea that said, not nearly enough. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to, I mean, if you are talking about, it's Zach Parise, like, you're talking about a desire to get rid of the contract. So don't think that there's a return there. You're not going to get, and this is the problem, Phil, I don't think you're going to get the return on guys that you really, really think, unless it is a Barrios.
Yeah,
or
and that's
possibly a Buxton.
And that's why you kick in more money, that's the thing. Like, how willing
to get the prospect.
Yeah, how willing is this ownership to, like, they could probably ship Donaldson to a team that eats all the money and get nothing back, basically.
Yep.
So, but yeah, if you're willing to eat $15 million and Jackie Bradley Jr., a year and a half of Jackie Bradley Jr., he's having a bad year, but he's a good player. He's sort of he's a fourth outfielder on a really good team, but he can he can start at any of the three outfield positions, and he can get hot for chunks of time. My problem with this type of deal is twofold. Number one, you already have a million outfielders, and if you plan on having Byron Buxton back, I guess you could put Jackie Bradley in a starting corner role, but then Kirilloff can go to first, and then Larnach plays another outfield spot. I don't know what the future of Rooker is. I don't know if he's going to be an everyday player.
And Kepler.
Yeah, and then Kepler's in the mid. You're just so log jammed out there.
But I'm trading Kepler at some point soon, I think.
That's the thing. Like, I would wait till he starts hitting to trade him.
Right. That'd be ideal. But I'm just saying I've now become convinced that Kepler does not necessarily have a long-term future here.
He's also 28. At some point, some of these guys are.
A lot of these guys. That's the problem. Is
28.
we think of them as you know what this has turned into comparable now, largely in this town. The wild core,
like a couple years
like
ago.
Coyle and Granlund, and go down that whole list. I mean, think about how long we thought that those guys were young kids. It's great. Charlie Coyle's it's like all of a sudden Charlie Coyle's not young.
Yeah. Roger Stainslow on the SKOR North YouTube page comments, please continue to point out what has gone wrong, but please own up to you guys believing that this team was a World Series contender and admit your terrible judgment of this team. I will say, in fairness, Roger, we have, and it's possible you've missed the episodes, but in case there's any ambiguity, Judd and I both had them well above like 94 wins or 92 or 96 or something.
Me. Yeah, bring it on.
We were 100% wrong out of the gate, and I think there's this autopsy is going to continue for months on what happened to this team, but it's a combination of their offensive productivity has been so tied to power, going back to the Bomba squad 2 years ago. The ball changed for one, and so there's just not nearly as much offense going around the league. The Twins don't make nearly enough contact. They've got guys like Sano literally has the second highest strikeout rate of any active player in baseball career-wise, and the sixth highest strikeout rate in the history of baseball. And only like a handful of pitchers are in front, like Lefty Grove or something, is on that list, So they don't make enough contact. They don't get on base enough. and they're not hitting for the same power they were a couple of years ago. And then you look up and down, it's like Cruz is 40, Donaldson's like 36. So they've got two of their biggest thumpers are just like past their prime. And on the pitching side, I think we all figured, all right, Barrios and Maeda are going to come back and be the same guys. That was wishful thinking. Maeda's been good, but he hasn't been the most durable. And it was unfair to think that he could replicate almost winning a Cy Young Award last year. I think my mistake was I sort of projected best case scenario for everything clicking. And what we're seeing is almost across the board, besides Buxton, worst case scenario in every category. And even Buxton classically has missed 5 weeks with injuries, right? He's been out for a month now, and then he missed another week in mid-April.
He'll be back soon, I'm sure.
So
yeah, no, I screwed up. I predicted 96 wins.
Yeah.
Grossly off.
Yeah. Skyhawk 494. Tell it like it is. This is on the SKOR North YouTube page. Tell it like it is. Donaldson has been a total bust. He was signed to add toughness and to lead the Twins to a deeper playoff run. The first time they really needed him last year to step up in the playoffs, he backs out because of his usual calf problem. He should have played through it and showed the team he was there for them. Even if he only lasted one at bat, he would have gained the respect of his teammates. So I actually don't think, like, if he doesn't have the respect of his teammates, I don't think it's because he didn't play through calf injuries. He tried to play through some of that stuff and hurt the team for chunks last year because he just wasn't able to do anything. So I think it's just the guy has chronic calf muscle and leg injury problems. The Twins knew some of that going in.
Yeah.
They took a risk. This is what happens when you're, I think rightfully so as a fan base, when you want the ownership to spend money. There's a reason why guys are free agents, right? They're oftentimes a little older. They're oftentimes in their 30s, and they're going to make a lot. Like the Twins are going to have to pay more money for a guy like Donaldson, as they did, or give an extra year or two than some of the other markets. And so they took a swing. I was fine with it, still am, but obviously it has been a bust to this point.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? We don't know enough about what transpired behind the scenes to go in on him for trying to play or not play. So I can't go there. But yes, I mean, the contract he has been a disappointment. He's been hurt. He has been occasionally effective, but not nearly what we thought. Yeah, this whole thing has just been a disaster. Like that's my point. Let's just call it like it is. It is a disaster. You cannot put lipstick on this pig. So don't even try. Yes, we were wrong, and it's a disaster.
He has been, in terms of just his hitting, he's been a lot better, especially the last few days. Like when he's been out there, I'm just going to compile this quick here. So he missed what? He for sure missed the playoff. Don't blink. He missed the 2 playoff games last year. So he played 28 games last year, 44 this year. Mm-hmm. So Baseball Reference, 72 games with the Twins. He's batting .240 with a .359 OBP, .464 slugging. His OPS plus is 133. So he's been pretty well above average as a hitter since joining the Twins. Offense down across the league. He's been fine defensively, but obviously he missed the most important games for them last year, and he was pretty cold when he came back from that hamstring injury too. So
yeah, and defensively, he's not been, this season in particular, has not been as good as I expected. Yeah. Like there have been plays he has not made, and there have been some bad throws, and I mean he's still good, but there is no way that this is the player that the Twins or Twins fans thought that they were getting when he signed that contract. I mean, it's just that simple.
Sizzleman says, if Minnesota fans want a reality check, watch SKOR North. You want positivity and coddling, go listen to K-Fluff. Sizzleman, we appreciate that. We try to keep it real. We maybe sometimes get carried away once in a while.
I never get carried away. I never get carried away when I see a guy drop a damn baseball because he runs into the left field or little league play.
I just don't like. It's so funny to me that there are people who are, so 1991, it's been 30 years since one of the 4 men's teams, the major men's teams, have won a championship. And so there's a lot of people that were born. I was born in 1985. I barely remember the 91 World Series. If you were born in like 1986 or later, you don't have any conscious memory of a men's championship in this town.
Correct.
And the fact that It's a third of a century. So we're coming up now. We talk about, oh man, some of these markets, they haven't won a championship since, whatever, in 40, 50 years. Like we're approaching that here. It's 30 years that's a long time at this point. I just don't understand the guilt of, wow, I don't know, maybe we're ripping Sano too much, or maybe you guys raise your bar, demand more from some of these franchises.
But I blame us because I think the tone is set by us. I think the tone is set by people in our business who, listen to a game on Bally's. You don't know a thing is wrong. Like they'll give you a little morsel here and there, but for the most part, the Twins, Celestino, he's a young man who shouldn't be here yet, but he has to be because of we're constantly, people from our side of the fence are constantly feeding the poor fans nonsense. A lot of people who set the tone in this market would prefer that you join the cult of the team than actually have a discerning eye for it. And so I really feel I'll start with us. The reason that we are seen as being the negative Nellies is because think about this. How many other people in town who write or talk about this team bring the reality of the situation to the table? Mm-hmm. Royce certainly does and has for a long time. And by the way, has gotten backlash for a long time about that. Chip and Jim do at times. But for the most part, there's not a lot of hard conversations had between the media in this town and the fans.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pat yourself on the back and pat the team on the back and hope you get them tomorrow.
Yeah. Like earlier this week, I think anyone who follows me on Twitter probably saw some of this back and forth. There was a blogger for a local Twins platform. I don't need to get into calling specific people or platforms out, but the sentiment was it's lazy BS to call out Miguel Sano as often as some people are, right? And some people would be. I feel like you and I are probably the only people that are banging the drum. I guess I don't consume all of Minnesota sports media, but so I retweeted and just wanted to get a feel for it. Wait, okay, is it fair to be criticizing Miguel Sano heavily, or is it lazy or BS or drawn out in some way? And I just find it so shocking that the last 4 years of Sano, for instance, okay, he had a nice 4-month run in 2019, and that brought him to the best season of his career with the 34 home runs. It's actually the only time he's ever hit 30 home runs in a season because he can't stay healthy, right? But in the other 3 of those 4 years, so 2018, 2020, and 2021, ages 25, 27, and 28. So we're talking like right in the heart of your prime. These are the years where you do the most damage as a baseball player, 25 through probably 31, right? And his averages are 199, 204, 154. His on-base percentages are 281, 278, 270, like unplayable numbers with some pop sprinkled in. But even the pop, like his OPS plus has been well below average in 2 of those 4 seasons. It was exactly average in 2020 or so. And I look at that and my logical brain says, holy crap. This guy was once the 4th best prospect in all of baseball. He was touted as being, by the organization, by scouts outside the organization, by fans, by media, as being a pillar of this franchise for a decade, right? And in a year in which they need him more than ever to step up and just carry this thing for like more than 2 weeks, okay? For more than the 10-day stretch that he always gets hot for. And he's just falling completely flat on his face. And he makes $10 million. It's not like he's on a league minimum deal anymore. And I just find it shocking that people think you need to somehow give the guy a pass or a break. Well, why don't you spread the criticism around more to other guys? Oh, well, maybe that's fair. But like until we demand more from ownership, front office, and players that are at the center of these teams, we don't have to go after their families or anything personal, but like these guys are all big human adults. Like they make a lot of money. They signed up for some criticism here and there. It just feels like, oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know.
And this whole team could be
being
ripped
too hard on him
for sure. But here, so the Sano thing too is, and here's what I don't get, and this will always go back to the fact that like we piled on Mauer like there was no tomorrow. The thing that I don't get is Miguel Sano. What now? 4 years back, 3 years back? I think it's 4 years back. Had to be sent to Florida to get himself back in shape during the season. Okay, like right there. That's a reference point where you're like, okay, when he comes back, there are no more excuses now. Like he wasn't hurt. He had to be sent to Florida because he had gotten so fat in the season. Right there, the question becomes, do you take this seriously? Like, do you really care about this? Because there's a difference between trying to run into a fastball and actually applying yourself. So that was the first thing to me that was the gigantic red flag that didn't get him a free pass upon his return. The other is, if you watched the telecast last night, I'll give Morneau credit for this. He was essentially begging Sano to go to the plate with an approach. He was begging him. He's like, I mean, he was talking him through it from the broadcast booth in Target Field. He was literally like, oh, okay, it looks like he's doing this, but I mean, he needs to do that. And this is a guy who is damn good and who gets it. And I think the lesson was there is no approach. He has no approach. He just goes up there. And this is why, Phil, I told you this. This is the worst thing. And there's been very few players that I've covered or talked about that I feel this way about. I feel really bad for him. Like, I think it's a lost cause. Like, he looks completely defeated. And he ran into a ball last night, and sure enough, it went a long way. And they challenged, or they asked the umpires to review, was that really foul? Well, the answer is, of course, it wasn't. And then he walked. But I mean, he's 0 for his last 21. I think he struck out something like 12 or 14 times in those at bats. So yeah, I mean, this has got it. It is not a stretch to say it's pathetic.
Yeah, he will get hot again. Mark my words. Off the record, write that down prediction. It'll happen again, probably in a week or two. He'll get hot again because he's not, he that's the amazing thing. He just gets ridiculously hot for like 10 days. By the way, on the Mauer front, last comment here on this Feedback Friday. Thank you guys for the interaction, the community. Doug Kessler says Mauer got ripped because the expectations of his were that he was our chosen one. He was supposed to lead us to the promised land. Not only did he not do that, but he wasn't a very likable personality on top of it. Maybe you guys are so upset with the teams all the time because you've set unrealistic expectations of what is success. Two things on that.
Huh?
There's a lot to unpack here. I hear you on the Mauer front in that he was injured for a couple playoff runs. He didn't have any iconic playoff moments, and his teams never. I don't think after 2000 did he even play in the 04 playoffs. I think he was hurt in 04. I don't remember. So I don't know that Joe Mauer ever won a playoff game. To be quite honest,
I don't think he did.
It's amazing.
I don't think he did.
So like those criticisms are valid. I mean, was it all his fault? No. I thought for when he was at his best, a lot of people still undervalued him because he doesn't hit home runs. Well, he's a catcher and he's Tony Gwynn basically. On the other front. The other part of this comment, maybe you guys are so upset with the teams all the time because you've set unrealistic expectations of what is success. Well, we'll be very clear. Our expectation of success, Judd's been alive for half a century. I've been around since the mid-'80s, and we've been watching a lot of failure throughout the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, right? Our expectation is very clear. We want titles, championships, trophies.
What should be our
those are our expectations. All right.
My comeback is what should be our expectations.
Yeah. We still have fun watching things that fall short of championship success, but especially this Wild team, which gave us unexpected success to a playoff Game 7. But I guess if you're setting expectations below championship, that's fine. You can, but just know that like on our show, when we get this upset about the Twins, it's through the prism of we want them to win a championship. They've got a roster that was built to win a championship. They haven't won a playoff game since 2004, and now they're 12 games below 500 halfway through the season, right? Like, that's so short of championship, and that's where our angst comes from.
Let's go back to where he says Mauer wasn't likable. Is Sano? That makes no sense. They both don't talk that much, and Joe didn't. And they both aren't quoted much. So, like, likability has nothing to do with this. I always thought Joe was a bit of an odd guy, but that didn't color the prism of how I thought about him as a guy who, in his prime, was a Hall of Fame catcher, no question about it. It's not like Miguel Sano is trying to curry favor with the beat people or the columnists. So, likability has zero to do with this. This is about production or lack thereof. Yeah. And to like try to tie this back to, well, I didn't like Joe, but I like Miguel. Okay, my question is why? What's the difference?
Also here, just for fun, so Joe Mauer in his career was worth 52.5 wins above replacement, and he retired at age 35 or so. 52.5 wins above replacement. And he didn't really add much onto that in the last 4 or 5 years. Most of that damage was like before the age of 30.
Yep.
Miguel Sano's been worth 8, according to Fangraphs. 8 wins above replacement and 3 in his prime. So it's hard to compare the two. I always thought that Joe definitely deserved criticism for certain things. Probably could have been more of a vocal leader with some of those teams that needed it, but I don't know. For the most part, he got a bad rap because he didn't hit 40 bombs.
Yeah, but in some ways, if you came to me and said, Judd, you can have one of two doors here. Door one is the Mauer door, and you know what? We're going to be harsh when we don't like how guys perform, and it might not always be fair, but we're going to be harsh, sort of Boston or Philadelphia like. Door two, it's the Miguel Sano door. For the most part, it's fine. It's great, right? I mean, we get to go to the ballpark and watch him play. I'm taking door one. Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm just saying, I'm not defending Joe. I'm just saying, in some ways, why don't we have more of that? Like right now would be a good time to dump on people, and instead, instead we run. And I think it has something to do, and I don't know how exactly, Phil, with our passive aggressive nature here. There's some type of defense mechanism to defend these teams when things aren't going well. You don't need to do that. You can rip everybody. They deserve it.
Yeah,
the bullpen's terrible.
Hansel
Robles is, Hansel Robles is a bust, and he makes and Colomé shouldn't be on the team. So yeah, go right ahead. Take the Mauer path. That's my point. Yep. Go down that path, folks.
Very therapeutic. There's more here too. We'll save some of this for maybe next week.
Catch the ball in center field next time, or in left center. Just catch the damn ball.
It's his first time playing baseball. You got to back off. Back off. He's never. There's the lights are brighter, the stadiums are bigger. Yeah, it's tough to see the ball. And
then, the throw in though, like that to me,
that's way more rippable. That's
right. Well, it's not just rippable. If I'm Baldelli, I would have been furious about that.
I'd rather put Astudillo in center for the next game just to send a message than to put him back out there after what he did. That was
that didn't look like an excitable bad throw. I mean, it looked like he just picked it up. It's like oh bleep and heaved it in.
Yeah, that was bad.
Woo.
That was bad. All right, Feedback Friday here on Mackey and Judd. And don't forget, the SKOR North app is brand new. It's awesome. You can find all of our content, podcasts, videos, Judd's written work. We even have some gift cards and rewards in there for people that use the app, and a feedback section too. If you want to just send us a video, if you want to send us a quick message, you want to send us pictures, whatever, you can do that through the feedback section of the SKOR North app. All right, we'll see if the Twins can crawl out of this thing against Kansas City this weekend and get back to 10 games under 500. Mackey and Judd, Feedback Friday. Thanks for hanging out with us.